Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video I'll be discussing my thoughts on episode 9 of the anime series Rokka no勇者. And I'm going to get it right out of the way. This episode was slightly perturbing to me because it's episode 9, and I think we only have like 3 episodes left to round out this season, and it's like, let's start getting somewhere and figuring out this mystery. I love this show, don't get me wrong, and I've been at the edge of my seat every single episode. This was the first episode. It kind of perturbed me because I felt like we were starting to get somewhere. As Adlet, and basically Hans are still duking it out with Chamo, and they figure out a way to beat her, kind of like sucker punching her in the gut and tying her up and everything. And we finally figure out that Adlet's, trying to piece together whether or not maybe the barrier had been actually activated when they thought it had been. Maybe it was a ruse. He goes on to explain this all to Flamey, he tells Hans he needs to talk to her and sort of flesh out this idea. And Hans warns him, she hates you. She can't comprehend you. The positivity, the going, above and beyond, trying to save and help others and everything like that. She doesn't comprehend where you're coming from. It's kind of like the Kirk Spock thing, the cold, cruel logic versus the very human, very emotional and robust heroic sentiment. It's kind of lost on a cold, logical process, brain process. And I'm not saying Flamey is without emotions and everything like that. She's not, a complete monster or demon or what have you. We know that she has some of that internally, but she also has a human quotient, and she's very much, I think, in conflict with how to go about relating to others and reacting around them. She's trying to preserve her own life, protect herself, but she's talking about killing others if need be. She's been saying this from the get-go, and I think it's interesting that when they finally do come together, you have all of this grandiose theorizing on Adlet's part about how maybe somebody, activated sort of a fog ruse, if you will, to make us all assume when we had gotten into the temple that the barrier had gone up. Just as soon as we got in there that it had gone up. But in fact, it was just this cloud cover, this faux fog cover that then hid the actual turning on of this barrier. And so you're kind of like, for the first half of the episode, you're building up the momentum of this absolutely insane revelation. And I thought it was even that much more, episode discussion videos back now. I called into question, maybe this Lauren guy who told them how to activate the barrier and everything like that, gave them all this information. How do we know he wasn't full of how do we know he was being anything less than genuine? Maybe he was very disingenuous, and I brought that up. If you could take what he was said as truth, I mean, there's no reason to believe that he is being truthful. It might not just be one of these main characters. In other words, maybe he's working in tandem with someone, and these were things that I had voiced, concerns I had voiced myself. And now Adlet is bringing this idea up in the show. And I kind of feel like, because I was already thinking that episodes back now, it's a little late in the game to bring that up. That should have been one of the first things we thought about. Now, granted, if you string these episodes along, everything is happening concurrently. It's not like a week span of time between every episode. The events are unfolding in a very short amount of time for the characters, whereas we, the viewer, it's taken weeks to get there. And I feel like that's part of my qualms with it. This is all very immediate for them, and they're coming across these ideas only hours later, whereas it's been 3-4 weeks, that we've been involved with just being stuck in this, temple with the barrier being up. And from that point where I was so excited, and I was really just, chomping at the bit to hear this unfolding theory of Adlet's, when finally things are all said and done, the rest of the episode is Flamey essentially picking it apart and undoing it and telling him exactly why he is wrong, why it doesn't amount to that at all. It can't possibly amount to that at all. Even going so far as to, use one of her explosive devices, the gunpowder devices that she summons in hand, to explode the ground and show that there are these little, phantasmal barrier devices, these things that are meant to make the fog to begin with or whatever. And if you kind of had a cascade of two of these different things together, two of these barriers together, it would cancel each other out. So there is some talk about the Saints once again, and Flamey is talking about how Adlet has it really sort of wrong in his estimation of them and what their abilities amount to. I think we pretty much as viewers know that much with Chamo and vomiting up this swamp and everything, the nastiness that amounted to. Well, yeah, apparently the Saints and their abilities aren't as, clear-cut and cut and dry as we first might have assumed. There still is that Ryota Sun Saint or whatever who is missing, who I speculate might be involved. By the end of this episode, it just disappointed me that I felt like we were no further. At this point, we should be gunning toward some kind of direction. And I felt directionless by the end. I didn't have, whereas so many of these episodes I've had a clear-cut 2 or 3 characters I think could be the fake. I still have choices, but I'm not as, confident in those choices at this point. Like, Mora is still standing out to me ever since last episode in her just bloodlustily seeking to kill Adlet and trying to convince Hans that he's wrong, that he bought into some kind of fakery on Adlet's part and everything. So obviously she's become the manipulator that Hans was previously, whereas Hans is kind of like a heroic character. I'm really digging how he was working with Adlet, especially taking down Chamo and everything. And his defense of Adlet. Like that, I was like, hell yes, somebody is finally championing this character. Nashtania has been doing that all the while, and we're, finally getting some of her concerns. I mean, it's been like 2-3 episodes since she first mentioned having doubts about Hans. Finally, she brings up the fact that when first encountered, and I'll have to go back and check the episode when they all came together because I don't remember whether or not he actually referred to her as Princess first and then talked about her as, the bunny girl and everything as they flash back in this episode. But this is the chief sort of tantamount reason Nashtenia has, as she's describing to Goldov, why she doesn't trust Hans, because it seemed like he knew her to be the princess and then he backpedaled. And I vaguely think that's true. I think I remember that being the case, and at the time I was kind of like, But then I didn't end up thinking much of it because I figured, these characters, it seems like so many of these characters know of each other if they haven't actually been formally introduced until they've come together. They've been aware of each other. So I didn't necessarily think too much of that at the time. And of course, as I say, with Chamo just being psychotic ever still, she's ear-to-ear grinning when Mora is talking about, Hans, you've completely been duped by Adlet and all this stuff. And I think the chief thing by the end of this episode, I'm redirecting, whereas Mora is, I feel, malevolent to a degree. I can't necessarily say she's coming from the right place. She seems very malevolent in the way she's describing going after Adlet and everything like that, and it just rubs me the wrong way. But I'm again, by the end of this episode, by the interaction and the discussion between Adlet and Flamey, I'm really sort of angling back toward Flamey in this essence of her wanting to seek a sort of revenge or vengeance against the demon god. As we found out, it's even more personal with her demon mother. It's pointedly toward her demon mother that she wants to take the demon god down, to show her, you didn't care about me, you didn't show me love and compassion, you gave me these human emotions, and then, you made me think that's how you felt, and I was just garbage when I didn't amount to what you needed me to amount to, the whole purpose you even created me and everything like that. And I'm leaning very much toward Flamey being sort of a fake in a sense, because she just pointedly wants to get at the demon god for all of her trials and tribulations and hardships, and the fact that she so strongly can't identify with Adlet's sort of heroism and his compassionate nature and his wanting to never give up and never back down and be the strongest man in the world. Again, it's not just physical prowess. That's not what we're talking about. He isn't some giant hulking Goldov dude. He's strong internally, he's strong emotionally, he's strong and he's smart because he has all these gimmicks and things he can employ the use of, becomes integral to that, taking Chemo down. As we see, he has all these other things he's using. And it's that, never backing down from smiling in the face of danger, never giving up, no matter the odds, no matter what is stacked against you. And she cannot comprehend it. She cannot understand it whatsoever. And I think the human side of her, because she very much says, spend more time with me. I want to know you. I want to understand you. Maybe my perspective can be changed. So there's a level of hope that she's trying to evolve who she is and understand a broader range, accept a level of learning and getting to know people around her, and maybe she'll find a friend in Adlet. If she can open all of that side of herself that has been hardened by the lies and the deceit and all those things that went into the formation of her even being. And that, to me, is what is utmost compelling by the end of this episode. I was disappointed in building up to this crescendo idea of they were faked out. Somebody created a fake fog barrier to keep them occupied long enough to create the real barrier, get this thing started up and really trap them. And then they ended up trapped, and, all this talk about just flamey, misunderstanding and just not being able to, within herself, come to a level of comprehension as to what motivates Adlet, what motivates a hero. And there's a line of dialogue toward the end of the episode where Nashtani is talking about, Adlet, there's something weird about him as compared to the rest of the Braves of the Six Flowers. This is something I have been saying since episode 1. The biggest chief thing you need to realize about Adlet is his perseverance is tantamount. His never backing down is tantamount. His heroism, his compassion, he is for the greater good. He's for everyone coming together and working as a unit. Whereas every one of these other supposed heroes of the world, the saviors of our world, or their world, whatever you want to call it, the braves of the Six Flowers, they want to resort to murder before they even investigate who they think the fake might be. They are less than heroic. They are very distrusting. Whereas Adlet is a proponent for, let's just try to have faith and belief in each other. And that, to me, it's like, these are our heroes. I love all these characters, but there are aspects of their natures that so is sitting in antithesis of what their purpose is meant to be. They aren't heroes through and through. They all doubt each other. They all suspect each other. They want to kill each other. And it's like, Adlet is the only one among them who's actually seemingly honorable. And it would be very interesting if it turned out like, in fact, there was only supposed to be one true hero, and maybe the myth of the Braves of the Six Flowers is false. Maybe, whereas we're thinking in terms of, one of the six must be fake. Maybe only one of them is the genuine. Maybe one of them is genuinely, sort of trying to be picked out of the lot, the most who will persevere, the one with the strongest ability, the one who will never back down. How do we know this isn't some ruse from the demon god where it's either one of two things by the end, as far as just speculation goes? Maybe this was a process by which the demon god would pick out a champion to conquer the world, whether he would inhabit the body of this person and, lead that way. Maybe he is actually just sort of a spirit form. We, know he needs to come into this world in some means. And maybe that's the process through which he's meant to do it. Maybe he's meant to pick whoever is the truest, strongest among these so-called heroes. The other thing is, as I say, maybe we have it backwards. Maybe it's not just one singular fake. Maybe all of them, were sort of chosen to be tested and see if they could be heroic, if they could be honorable, if they could be noble. And so far, Adlet is the only one who is showing those abilities. I don't know. Just this was the first episode where I just feel like ho-hum by the end of it, in the sense that, you know, we built up to this great idea, this great revelatory idea that, hey, maybe that fog barrier that first went up, that was part of this ruse, and somebody got the better of them, snuck in and, you know, activated the genuine barrier in the midst of that while they were all confused and thought they were trapped. They hadn't been. And then it's picked apart and completely whittled down by the end of the episode by Flamey for all these different reasons, and it just felt like, I almost felt like we backpedaled instead of, you know, with every single episode previous to this, we've gone that much further ahead. Baby steps, you know, we're not taking leaps and bounds, but at least we're progressing forward. This is the first episode where I felt like we're not only at a standstill, but we're taking steps back. And it's like, let's get to the point. Who the hell is the fake already? You know, so I mean, that's just the way I'm left by the end of this episode. I'm still on board. I'm still, you know, excited to see what the hell is going to happen next. Desperate Measures or something like that is the title of the next episode. It's going to be interesting to see what that amounts to. Who it revolves around. And if we're actually going to get some kind of revelation. Because let's not forget, the whole purpose of this is to stop the demon god coming into our world while they're all trapped here. Even though it's not, you know, as I say, weeks, the span of time for we the viewer. It's just hours, you know, for these characters. Maybe a day and a half has passed since their journey began. I would think, even with that in mind, that time is of the essence. And getting to the defeating of the demon god is, you know, it needs to be done as quickly as possible. So the longer we're killing time here, not getting to the point, it's like, how are they ever going to end the series with the demon god even being confronted? I don't think it can be done. I don't think it's going to be done. I haven't read the source material, so I don't know how far ahead they go with that. Are they successful? Do they even ever encounter the demon god? Is it simply a footnote after the drama of who is the fake among us and everything that they've been just stringing along? It's just like, at this point, let's get to the point. So, I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 9 of Rokka no Yuusha, if you've seen it, if you enjoyed it, if not, why not? If you agree with me that, you know, they're banging on the drums now, ad infinitum, ad nauseum, and we need to get to a point, or if you were absolutely satisfied with the episode and excited by it, anything goes in the comments below. I love having the conversation with you guys. So, otherwise, that'll be pretty much it for me on this. Hope this video finds you well, and I'll catch you later. Peace.